near you.
Hey everybody, how we doing out there tonight? Welcome. Another episode of Paranormal Encrypted Rabbit Holes. Good to see everybody. We got Val out there. Hey Val, how you doing? Curtis, nice for you to join us, Curtis, out there. We got Blazer. Hey Blazer, what's going on, buddy? Roger Blair, good to see you, buddy. Ain't seen you in a minute. Little Twisted with us, as always. Twisted, how you doing? Tales Told in the Dark. Hello there. How are you today? All right, guys. Sorry about last week. Had an emergency come up kind of last minute. As y'all know, my future mother-in-law has been having some health issues. She had spent about a month in the hospital. She had been put into rehab, but then some complications came up. And my fiance, Jennifer, asked if I could come up and be some support and kind of help them out. So I found myself driving up to Kentucky from Florida about 10:30 at night, started my way up. So just last week I was focusing on family and helping Jennifer and my future mother-in-law out. Good news is she's back home, doing good, has gotten over the issues that had her in there. Jennifer is recovering well from her stress from everything. They're home resting. Hopefully she's out there listening. She's been having some problems that she's been listening and making comments, but they're not coming through. So I just want to reiterate, depending on how you're listening to the show, even if it's live, you may not be involved in the chat. So if you want to get in the chat, come on to YouTube, Bigfoot Outlaw. Check out the live stream. Join us in the chat. Always have a good time. All right, guys. So the last time we were together, we had our guest Alexa on, and she was talking about the lost colony of Roanoke, right? Really good in-depth research there. And it just kind of prompted me to think, has this ever happened before or since, right? Have there been other just mysterious vanishing towns or villages? And so I started doing some digging. And first you come across your usual historical ones, right? Aztecs, Mayans, all this kind of stuff. They great civilizations that rose and fell, but not really what we were looking for. Did some more digging, came across some, out west ghost towns where, there was a gold boom and then disappeared and all that kind of things like that. Not really what we're looking for. Came across a really interesting town where apparently there was coal mines and a fire started underneath the town, and the fire is still going on, burning these coal seams. And so the town had to basically be evacuated because there's active fires underneath. Really cool story. Still not what we were looking for. But finally, I came across this story, the only one I could find. And this was called The Missing Village on Lake Angikuni. Okay. And what this is talking about was the same kind of thing as we were talking about with Roanoke. So I did some research into this. I came across somebody that had done some research. They're not going to be on tonight, but I am going to give them credit for their research on it. So tonight we're going to be going over the missing village on Lake Angikuni. Now, again, guys, questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Feel free to ask questions as we're having our discussion. I will answer them as we go through. I'm not just going to wait to the end. I like having a dialogue with you guys. Hi, Liana King. Welcome. War Criminal 7. Nice to see you. Troy Sowers. How you doing out there, guys? So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we'll pull this up. The missing village of Lake Angikuni. All right. So what are we talking about here? We are talking way Canada, guys. We're talking far north. If you can see the little red dot there in the middle of the map, that's how far north we're going. The Northwest Territories way up in Canada. All right. And here is a picture of the shores of Lake Angikuni. So you can kind of see what we're looking at there. Beautiful clear skies. But this is where this mystery takes place at. All right, so as the story goes, there was a well-known fur trapper by the name of George Labelle. And he was traveling one day in November 1930. And he had heard of this little settlement, a little village, not very big. And he was going to stop in there for a rest, get some lodging, get some food, maybe get some companionship, check up on the news, that kind of a thing. The settlement, they said, had about 25 total men, women, children, along with their sled dogs. So as he's up there going about his rounds, he says, hey, I'm going to come in and check in on this village and see if I can't rest up there before he continues on his way. And here is a picture that goes along with it. All right, but when he gets there, the village was completely abandoned. Nobody's there. So just like in Roanoke, gets there, they search around looking for inhabitants. Absolutely nothing, dead quiet. He found meals that were partially eaten, still in some of the tents. Food still hung over the fires, and some of the fires supposedly were still smoldering. In one of the tents, he found clothes with needles still in them, being mended. Right? So just like when we discussed with Roanoke, what he's finding is these people stopped what they were doing in the middle of doing it. Just immediately up and left, dropped whatever they were doing and took off. So this is what he finds in this village. No tracks, no signs of violence. Everything's still in quiet. He's going through, checking everything out, trying to figure out what's going on. Now, he's a fur trapper, right? So he knows how to read sign. He knows how to find people and track animals, this kind of stuff, and he's not seeing anything. Then he gets to the edge of the village. He made his first gruesome discovery. The bodies of 7 dogs frozen on the edge of the village. They appeared to have been starved to death. Now, again, we're talking far north, Northwest Territory, Canada. These are sled dogs. This is their lifeblood, right? So if they were going to abandon the village, they're not just going to leave their dogs behind. So we found 7 of these dogs out there. Hey, T-Bone, how you doing, bud? Thank you for joining us. Thank you. All right, but that wasn't the worst of it. He kept going. Past the dogs, he noticed a disturbance in the ground. So he went and checked it out, trying to figure out what it was. He came upon a grave that had been dug up. But the stones surrounding the grave, like the markers, the barriers around the grave, hadn't been disturbed. So he read that as it wasn't like wild animals that had come up and dug up the body, but this was humans. So completely empty village, everybody up and left, found dogs starved to death, they're gone, and then he comes upon an exhumed grave. I don't know about you guys, but I would be freaking out just a little bit there, right? I'd be done. So he left. He's like, that's it. I'm out of here, taking off. He traveled many miles further up the lake to the nearest telegraph office and contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties. So that's our story. That's kind of the basic idea there. Okay. So he's traveling, goes to check it out, completely abandoned, finds some weird stuff. He bolts and then goes and gets the cops. Okay. So they do their investigation. They're showing up. They check things out. Everything was as he said. A couple of things they did know that there were still kayaks on the shore of the lake, which Joe didn't mention. But other than that, they found the village just as Joe Labelle described it, except for one disturbing thing that they found beyond what he found. Standing Stones, nice to see you out there. Miss Nada Decker, my mama, watching in as always, my biggest fan. Thank you. All right, so what did the Mounties find? Even more disturbing that Joe Labelle didn't find? Well, where they had found the grave Joe had found it dug up. They found more. In fact, they found pretty much all the graves around the area had been dug up. And the headstones had been neatly stacked up, indicating again, this was not an animal thing. This was not animals digging for food up in the north. This was an intelligence. Stacked up the headstones and dug up the human graves, but no trace of what was in the graves. Completely gone. The Mounties concluded that the village had been empty for about 8 weeks, and no one has ever been found or heard from ever since. So we have the village completely abandoned. They're estimated about 25 people there. Food still hung over the fire to cook, meals half eaten, clothes in the middle of being mended, sled dogs left behind to starve, and then all the graves in the area dug up. Nobody ever heard from them ever again. During the investigation, 3 men were interviewed. It was another trapper by the name of Armand Laurent and his 2 sons. Now, according to what was reported, they saw a large cylindrical glowing object in the skies above the lake. And apparently it supposedly changed shape to a bullet shaped. I don't know. I think it might be a different angle. Cylindrical, bullet shaped. They're pretty close. And they saw it take off. Also, on that same note, some of the Mounties themselves reported strange lights being seen over the lake during the time of the investigation. Ultimately, these reports were dismissed, and the case was never solved. But is it true? Did it really happen? Is this another Roanoke? Is this another just missing village completely gone that we can't figure out? Or is there something more going on here? Let's take a look. I got to give credit to Brian Dunning from the Skeptoid website. He went through and did the research on this, tracked everything down, kind of backed everything up for us, went through it all, and I was able to pull his research up and kind of figure out what's going on. Do we have any questions so far? Anything at all, guys, about what's going on? Do we got kind of the gist of what's happening here? All right. So, Brian Dunning did a little bit of digging on this, and he tracked it down to a newspaper article written November 29th, 1930 by Emmett E. Kelleher in a newspaper called The Bee out of Danville, Virginia. Apparently, there was some different reports of where it came from, a Halifax newspaper, but originally this was the very first printing of this story right here. Kelleher, the guy that wrote the article, has been known and previously accused of exaggeration in his writings. As we know, the old-time newspaper reporter sometimes was more about entertainment than it was news. If they had a slow news days, you never know what kind of story would crop up. As we find in digging into, paranormal and cryptid stuff, it happens more often than not. Some stories just get made up. One of the pictures in the article was proven to be a decades older picture, so that kind of threw a little shade on it. And then at the same time, he was an experienced journalist who did have an interest in the sensational, which could have led him to this story, which could be why he was the one that broke it, right? But everybody knew him. He was a good journalist, but he had a flair for sensationalism and a little bit of exaggeration in his stories, as every good writer should, right? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, as they say. All right, so how about the UFOs? The UFOs were not mentioned in the original article. The account of the 3 trappers first appeared in a book by Nigel Blundell and Roger Bohr, and the book was called The World's Greatest UFO Mysteries. So that's like an add-in. That wasn't even part of the original newspaper article that came out. I kind of feel that this was just something that was added in later on just to kind of build the legend of the missing village, because I mean, think about we're talking 1930s. Uh, did they even have UFOs back then, especially cylindrical ones that would morph into bullet shaped ones? I'm pretty sure that was a later advancement when it comes to UFO lore. If anybody out there knows for sure kind of the timing on that, let me know. We can look that up. But that part kind of canceled out there. All right, what about Joe Labelle? Well, here, Joe was a real fur trapper. This is a real dude. He was verified as being a real dude. However, no records indicate that he had a trapper's license until 1930. But again, that doesn't mean he wasn't trapping previous to that. We're talking northern Canada. He's trapping to survive, make his living. Can't say just because he didn't have a license doesn't mean he wasn't out there trapping. But it was verified. He was a real person out there. Standing stone, saucer mostly, I think. Yeah, I agree. Pretty much early on, it was the classic saucer shape people talked about, the upside down pie plate, upside down saucer, which is interesting though because the first reported UFO from the Air Force pilot did not describe him that way. Where that came from, the saucer shape or the saucer description was, he said they moved like saucers skipping over a lake was how they moved. So they weren't described as a shape. They were actually more, I want to say U-shaped or almost boomerang shaped. T-Bone asked, any missionary journals from that time? Not that was reported in the research that I found on here at all. Just the newspaper article that Kelleher wrote. Good question, though. All right, and what about the Mounties, right? They investigated, they checked it out. They've been asked for notes on the investigation many times. However, they insist there is no evidence that such an investigation ever even took place. So they're saying, we don't even know what you're talking about. We never did an investigation out there. This has never come up before. We don't know anything about it. Greg Ogles, Relic Films. How you doing, bud? Thanks for joining us. Standing Stones, correct. In the early or first issues of Fate magazine has a U-shaped craft. Yeah, exactly. Saucers was how it was described. And then after that, they came up afterwards. Troy Sowers, that's a red flag. What's a red flag, buddy? Are you talking about how the Mounties are saying there's no evidence it took place? All right, so my conclusion. I believe this is nothing more than a tall tale written for entertainment to sell newspapers, as there is no evidence as to even if there was a village, let alone any verifiable facts to the case. Jennifer, can you see me? I can see you. Hello, I can see you typing. There she is, Jennifer, my beautiful fiance. Yep, she came to YouTube. So apparently some of the Facebook groups are having some issues and being able to contact. Again, if you want to come in the chat, join the discussion. Your best bet to live is to come on YouTube, Bigfoot Outlaw, and check it out. Tony says, I think the red flag is the fact that they could not locate the article. Well, they found the original article. So they did find that. But that's all it was. There's nothing beyond the article. So basically what boiled down to is Kelleher. Make sure I'm saying his name right here. Yeah. Emmett E. Kelleher pretty much fabricated the story. There was no actual proof that this village was even there. The UFO thing was completely added on later in a book. Pretty sure that never happened. The one thing I did find about the Mounties was that it said that they did look at it, but when they saw it was a newspaper article but could not verify any facts or anything beyond what the newspaper article said, they just completely dismissed it and didn't even do an investigation, which would make sense if they don't have any notes on that, right? So that's the missing village on Lake Anjikuni. You know, going into this, I was really excited because I'm reading it and I'm going, man, this sounds just like Roanoke. We're gonna come up with something here. This is gonna be good. And then come to find out, it's more than likely just a fabrication. So I was very disappointed, guys. And I could not find any single other instance of a missing village like Roanoke. We come across ghost towns, but those are the economy died, gold boom, coal boom, whatever was vacated. They knew what happened to the people. Even what is it, Port Chapman, the Alaska one, right, where everybody was talking about, the wild Bigfoot come in and then ended up destroying the town and the people left. When they went up there and did the documentary on that one, the people left because, again, the fishing economy dried up. Yes, there was stories of people going in and disappearing in the woods and reports of Bigfoots in the area, but that's not the reason Port Chatham was evacuated. The people knew, they moved to another village down. There's still old timers that used to live there and their descendants are in this other village. That's not even a mystery. I could not find a single other mystery where it was just, we don't know what happened. Yeah, T-Bone, Machu Picchu again. That was the whole culture. And I was really looking for a modern village, right? Machu Picchu. We got was that the Incans? I'm trying to remember. We have the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans, right? But those were more, the culture died. The tribes got assimilated. Yeah, there's a mystery to it, but definitely archaeological. But this was looking more for like the Roanoke. Standing stones. Wasn't there a fort at Hawaii and a river? You said, what's the deal with that? You're talking about Roanoke. So yeah, originally, if I remember correctly, they were marking a map that he had put together, and they had marked a spot where they wanted to build a fort at the Y of a junction there of a river. And so that was one of the places they suspected the villagers may have gone to, was they vacated the Roanoke and then went there. But they didn't. There was no sign of them there at all. There was nothing being established there. If I'm correct in what you're asking about there. T-Bone, thanks. Yeah, Machu Picchu's they're fun, but that to me they don't really fit into the paranormal aspect of it. That's archaeological ancient history. Now, I will tell you, I'm a big believer in alternative history. I don't believe the history is as we were taught. I think the history of the earth, the history of the world is completely different. I'm not necessarily a conspiracy guy saying why people are covering this up, or, I think it's just a matter of how things were written for whatever purposes. I believe there were ancient civilizations that were highly advanced. Not the same kind of tech that we have. They probably didn't have computers and laptops and electric cars and, all that kind of stuff, cell phones. But I believe they were advanced in their own ways. They were at least as technologically advanced, just in a different way. And I think a lot of those societies collapse, as societies tend to do. Whether it be from, food famine, they got too big for their britches, they destroyed themselves. However, I really can't say. But I firmly believe that that's a big part of those. So homework for you guys. Let me know if you can come across any other missing groups of people like Roanoke. I found things like, airplane crash and disappeared, or, hikers disappeared. different things like that, but never a situation with Roanoke where it looked like they just up and left. The whole mystery there, and I think that's what makes it such a great big mystery, is that there is nothing like it. It's a singular event. But again, that's just me looking, right? I want you guys to look too. See what we can come up with, see what we can find out. As always, guys, send me requests. Look me up on Facebook. It's just Justin Decker. I'm going to put together an email address so you guys can email me. Show ideas. Grizzly sent me something. Something quite interesting. I'm not going to give it away, but definitely something for me to look into. I got to see if there's actually a show I can put together on it. But somebody had sent it in to him, and he passed it on to me to check it out. Quite an interesting topic. I think you guys will love it. We'll have to see. Did you ever look into those face peelers down in the Amazon? No, I don't. I don't remember face peelers. I'm not familiar with the lore of the face peelers. Let's see if I can find out real quick for you. It's just this a little bit so I can see. That went a lot faster than I expected, guys. I apologize. I'm getting used to this whole not having Grizzly on to bounce her back and forth and have questions and stuff with. He's decided just to kind of let me run with it. And, he'll pop on every now and then. But I got to get used to the new format here. So I got to come up with more stuff or talk longer or talk slower or something here. Let me see. Charles Rudd. Hey, guys from Texas. Hey, Charles. How you doing? Little Twisted. Yes. You sent that. Okay. Horned Humans. Yep. That's what we wanted to check out. All right. What is this? The guy who did the deep dive, he was a mirror of yourself. Same thing. Anglo living in the jungle. Is that how you refer to me? I'm an Anglo. I guess. Yeah, send me some info on it. A quick Google search. All I'm finding is cosmetic products. Here's one from the Mirror. Mystery of a village in a remote Amazon region terrorized. Spreaker update on the Amazon face peelers. Okay, well. TikTok indigenous tales. There's some stuff out there I can dig into. I'll have to write that down. Curtis, Wikipedia search mass disappearances. I did. And it came up with all different kinds of categories, which is really cool. And that's what ultimately led me to this one. But there was, just missing people. There's some really cool ones. But I felt they fell more into the Grizzlies' other shows with, the cold cases and the crime solving and different stuff like that. Definitely some mysterious disappearances out there, almost a 411 kind of a situation. Things where they found the airplane crash, but all the people were gone. People disappearing hiking. There's definitely some mass disappearances that are strange out there. But just nothing that I really felt, was kind of my area. A little twisted. I wonder why that guy would make up. Back in the day, newspapers were also entertainment, and it's happened before. If there's a slow news week, nothing's going on, they still have to write. And it has been suggested that several of the stories within the paranormal encrypted world that come back from the old days of the newspaper days, the yellow papers, are fabricated. Some say the Jacko story was one of those that was just fabricated by a newspaper guy that kind of went out of hand. If you guys are familiar with Jacko, the infant Sasquatch that supposedly was captured along the railroad tracks. He eventually made his escape. Some say he escaped. Some say that he made the circuits and then did the sideshows for a while, like all different kinds of stories on it. But some people say that originally was just one of those rags. It's one of them stories that, just kind of blew up. A little twisted, DuckDuckGo browser. Yeah, I do DuckDuckGo sometimes. I try and do a few different ways to search. I agree. Google is censored. Jennifer McDaniels, Bermuda Triangle effect. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Jennifer, you're a reporter. Do you have anything to comment about the history of the newspapers making up stories like that for slow newspaper days, newspaper weeks, stuff like that? With your history, she's a reporter, freelance reporter for newspapers out of Kentucky. So if you got any background on that, the audience would like to know why they would make up a story like that. I have DuckDuckGo on my phone, twisted. I just don't have it on my laptop here for a quick search. So we're going to have to look into that one, the face peelers. And then next week, I'll look into the human horn, the humans with horns. Little twisted. I wasn't going to on that one, but you're like, hey, I did it. So we'll check that out. Send me a link and everything. We'll check that out, dig into it, see what we can find. That'll be fun. Jennifer McDaniels, they still do make up stories, fake news. I think it might be a little bit different thing, but yeah. Just because it's in a newspaper, it's on TV, it's in the news, doesn't mean it's real, guys. Do your research. Check it out for yourselves. That's one of the things that my parents always instilled in me, no matter what it is no matter what somebody tells you, look it up. I don't care if it's your preacher, your teacher, or the guy on the street. Look it up for yourself. Find out where to find the information and pull it up. Little Twisted said, Tim Alberino did a good show on the Peru face peelers. All right, so it sounds like we got our next two shows done up. Horned humans and then face peelers. Absolutely. Any other question, guys? Anything else you want to talk about? Anything at all? I still got about 20 minutes here of time to kind of fill up, unless I'm just going to cut the show early, which we've been known to do from time to time. It's been a long week. We got quite a few people viewing just through YouTube. So, T-Bone, if you don't do your research, you're already wrong. Yeah, exactly, right? Do your own research. Check it out. Now, at the same time, let me put a caveat on that. I'm not saying you have to go do your own archaeological digs, right? I've had some people say, well, if you're not doing the experiment yourself, or you're not out there actively digging and examining the fossils and this and that, you're not really doing your own research. Okay. Come on, let's be realistic about it. I'm not going to be out there traveling through Peru looking for face peelers. I'm going to take the word from somebody else that's done the research on it, right? Jennifer. Oh, you just mean, no, you're just talking about the Bermuda Triangle in general. People have been known to disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. Didn't know if that energy could play a part in some communities disappearing. Okay, I see what you're saying there. It's a possibility. Some people talk about ley lines or different energy portals or things like that as a possibility. It's a good thought. A little twisted. Our history is totally different than we are taught. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. You know, I'm real big on sharing wealth and knowledge, guys. And there's an old YouTube, I shouldn't say old YouTube channel, a long-lasting YouTube channel out there called Expanded Perspectives. They do a lot of great research. They have some really great episodes on alternative history. I highly recommend checking them out. They've been around for 10, 15 years now. It's called Expanded Perspectives. Definitely want to check them out, guys. if you're into alternate history, just anything. They have some great shows on there. Their format's a little different. It's more of a storytelling format, and they kind of banter about it back and forth. But absolutely great information. A little twisted. I was thinking cannibal tribes for the face peelers. I mean, sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Why not? I know none of the tribes we associated with were cannibals, or that I know of had a cannibal background to them, but I know there are tribes out there. I have friends over in Papua New Guinea. In fact, fun story is I was actually supposed to be born in Papua New Guinea. That's where my parents were headed first. But at the last minute, Colombia became available, and they were able to get the visas and stuff to go there. So I ended up being born in Colombia instead of Papua New Guinea. But I still have some friends over that way. And yeah, cannibalism was a real thing over there. More ceremonial than anything else. More had to do with absorbing the power of your enemies, or keeping the ghost of your enemies coming back to haunt you, and different stuff like that. A little twisted, maybe the Roanoke encounter. Well, I mean, that's a remote possibility, but there's the other tribes in the area would have made mention of a cannibal tribe. There would have been documentation of that. So, and again, look back at the episode, man. What was the evidence? There was no evidence of attacks. There was no evidence of like fire or spearheads or anything at all that would indicate an attack of any kind whatsoever. In fact, the local tribes in the area were known to be friendly. That's kind of the main theory, is that they went and were absorbed into the other tribes. So you got to look at all the evidence there, buddy. It's fun to get out some good theories, and you never know, but you got to look at the big picture there. Jennifer McDaniels, an area in Appalachia known as the Appalachian Triangle, where people have been known to disappear. It's probably the same place where we get the really good corn liquor at. We'll have to look into that. Is that someplace we can go and check out sometime? I don't mind. We can drive up there. I'll have to look into that one. Appalachian Triangle. What's the points of that triangle, if you happen to know? Dolores Claiborne. I think the Bermuda Triangle has demonstrated to mess up magnetic navigation, etc. Yeah. I can do a show on the Bermuda Triangle if you guys want to. I kind of think it's been overdone, but if you guys want it, I will be more than happy to dig up some stuff on it. I know there's definitely been some magnetic anomalies there. There's been radio interference going on there. I know one of the biggest, I guess, theories to date is that somehow there's these huge pockets of methane gas that get released, and it creates a discrepancy in, how do I put it? Like, it creates a bubble, and a ship can get caught up in it, and it will cause the ship to sink because of the different densities. Or if the methane gas releases into the air, when there is an airplane flying over, it changes the density of the air, causing the airplane to suddenly lose control and crash. So I've heard that theory bandied about, but I've definitely seen the magnetic storm theory. I saw a documentary where there was one guy who was traveling, went into a rainstorm, but ended up coming out like way early to his destination, and he had it backed up with his gas reports and his flight logs and stuff. So that was a really interesting one. But I have to track down that documentary to find that if I can, though. Jennifer, Black Mountain is part of it. Okay, well, Black Mountain is up there where Jen lives. We've been on Black Mountain several times. It's definitely known for its mysteriousness of Black Mountain. So we'll have to check that out. Is there any other points to it, or is that just one of the points, or is Black Mountain just kind of in the middle of it? Jen and I are doing some stuff on Black Mountain. The book I'm writing on has stories from Black Mountain on it. She's working on folk tales and stories from Black Mountain. our last event was called In the Shadows of Black Mountain. So the Black Mountain up there in eastern Kentucky is definitely a mysterious place. Any other questions, guys? Any other comments? Anything we want to banter about a little bit? On my list for episodes, I've got face peelers, and then I've got the one that Little Twisted sent in. Skulls found with horns and stuff on them. And I guess we can add Bermuda Triangle to the list if you guys, let me know. I'll only do it if you guys really show an interest in it. Because, again, it's one of those ones that I think have kind of been almost beat to death. I got the email up there on the screen for Grizzly. If you have a show suggestion, send it to him and put, my name on it or Paranormal Cryptid Rabbit Hole, something like that, to indicate that you want me to go over it with you. There's been a couple times where you guys have suggested something and I start doing it. Mel's Hole comes to mind. And Grizz was like, "Oh, was that for your show? We did that on this other show." And I'm like, "Oh, man, are you serious?" I don't like doubling up on topics. So that's why I never did do the Mel's Hole topic there. Little Twisted, cool, great show as usual. Justin, love your research. Thanks, bud. That one wasn't my research as much. That was just digging into the story. I don't really have a whole research topic I'm working on right now. Did the Vikings one, and then we did the red-haired giants at the cave. Did that one. But I need some more urban legend stuff to look up that I can actually pull some books on and do some research on. T-Bone Nose Hole. Yeah, did you catch that one? I didn't see who did it. I know we had asked that, but Nose Hole was interesting. I don't know the truth or not of it. It's one of those Coast to Coast AM stories. Loved Coast to Coast AM back in the day. George Norrie. But you got to take those with a grain of salt, and I think Nose Hole is one of those stories. T-Bone, how about dragons not what you think? Dragons are actually a fascinating topic. I've looked into dragons. What do you mean by not what you think? Tell me your thoughts on that. Val, the Brown Mountain Lights. The Brown Mountain Lights are really cool. One of my good friends, Matthew Delph, has been out there checking them out. The problem is there's not a whole lot to investigate there. I mean, basically what you can come up with is the history and people seeing them. Like, that's about it for the Brown Mountain Lights, right? Because there's been research done, but there's nothing. People try and track them down. They can't find them. They'll go and start trying to chase the lights, but they can never get to them. They talk about it's just being the lights from a car coming around the mountain, which I don't believe. But there's not a whole lot to go on with the Brown Mountain Lights. There really isn't. I think it's an absolutely fascinating topic. And there's other places that have lights like that too. But there's not a whole lot of research to be done on them. Maybe an episode on all the different places that have the lights. But I don't even know what we can. That'd be a whole show, Numbskull, I'm new here. What's going on? Hey, Numbskull, we're just kind of wrapping up. Feel free to go back and watch the episode. Right now, we're just kind of talking and chatting. People are throwing out ideas for possible shows coming up. Val, Philadelphia Experiment. That's a good one. I just heard a good podcast on that one. Maybe I'll pull it up and take notes and reference them. Because there was some new information on that podcast that I hadn't heard before. People claiming to be a part of it and time traveling and all this kind of stuff that went along with it. trying to remember who that was. I think that was Weird Darkness. Another really good podcast. Dolores Claiborne, the Outlaw Pass incident. Yeah, I can do a show on that one. Another one of those ones that have been kind of beat to death. I did find a podcast that did an extreme deep dive into it. Like, extreme deep dive. And I'm hoping I'm going to try and find a way to contact him and have him come on the show and discuss what he found with Outlaw Pass. He's super busy, runs all kinds of podcasts and stuff, so I don't know if that's going to be possible. I'm going to try. I'm holding off on that one because his in-depth research, you guys think I can do some in-depth research. He blows me out of the water. This dude's an actual historian, and he has a degree in like research and history and stuff like that. So he's absolutely wonderful stuff. But that is on the burners, Dolores. I just have to see how I'm going to format that, if I'm going to do it myself or if I can get him to come on. Little Twisted, never heard of it. The Russian Yeti is usually what they call it. I don't believe a Yeti was involved at all. Russian Yeti attacks, kills Russian mountain climbers, stuff like that. There's a big documentary on it, all this kind of stuff. I don't believe it had anything to do with the Yeti at all. This guy breaks it down really well. Numbskull, where are you at right now? I'm just in my room. I always keep the lights off. I never know where I'm going to be at. I've been known to throw podcasts from my truck, sitting out in the middle of the woods on a picnic table. So I just basically keep my my background dark all the time. So then it doesn't matter where I'm at. Kathleen Michael says she thinks it was the government. I think there was definitely some kind of cover up with it. I think there was some stuff going on in the background that wasn't that was classified. We'll put it that way, classified. And so that stuff they didn't want to get out, so that part was covered up. But I think the incident itself was an accident, a freak of nature kind of thing. Dolores Claiborne, I think it's hypothermia, but a real creepy story all the same. Yeah, absolutely. It's a creepy story. I believe most of the people died from hypothermia on that one. I agree. Josh Gates did one on it. It was, yeah, he did. It's one of those ones that's been done so many times. But I never heard the stuff this guy dug up. So I'm going to see if I'm not going to tell you his name yet, because I don't want you to go watch it and then ruin the guest part of it. But if I don't get him on as a guest, then I'll tell you where to go look it up, because he has like, I think 2 or 3 different shows on, and each one's like well over an hour long. There was so much into it that he broke down, and he got like diaries and reports in Russian that he had to translate and all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Did a great job on it. T-Bone, custodian file, YouTube. I'm not sure what you mean by that, buddy. I'm not the most tech savvy person. I can get by, but I don't know what you mean by that. I'll put this to you. Dragons was an old name. Dinosaur wasn't invented in the early 1800s, so I think dragons was the word before that. I think creatures that could be identified as dragons did exist, and I believe there's still some possibility of something called the dragon still around today. Not necessarily that we think of as the mythical flying creature dragon. I'm a big believer that the dragon was what was used to describe living dinosaurs. Because if you really look into the actual historical stories of dragons, their descriptions are different. And if you can get into the actual descriptions, not the fanciful legends, but some of the original tales, some of them do describe like dinosaur types. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Numbskull, do you have a motorcycle? You look like someone who uses one every day during the summer. I do not. I am not a biker. Working on it though, right, Jennifer? We talked about it. I almost got one time, but passed. Took the kids on vacation instead. Dolores looked forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be a good episode. The Outlaw Pass will be good, depending on how we can get it to work out. Either way, it'll be good. Any other suggestion, guys? Any other? Kathleen Michael, I have a Harley. Well, of course, if I'm going to get one, it's going to be a Harley. Dad always drove a bike, but I couldn't tell you which ones he drove. He had a few different ones. Growing up in Columbia, when we were in town, a motorcycle was the easiest way to get around, and he could fit all of us on it. Buzz around town. They didn't have all the laws and rules, so we could buzz around the town. I don't remember it, but promises. Well, hey, you know the situation. Jennifer, if we're getting a bike, you're going to have to be in on that one. We have this image of when I can start speaking tours again and going to different conferences and doing stuff of me and Jen riding up on a bike, pulling up to a conference. It'd be fun. We'll see what happens. Not sure my health will allow for that anymore, but you never know. Really hoping once things get settled, I can start speaking at conferences again. I always enjoy doing that. All right, guys. Any other questions, comments, anything else going on? I'm sorry this was like half just talking and BSing. Didn't have a whole lot of material there. But go back, check it out. It was definitely an interesting story. If nothing else, a good lesson and not believing everything we come across and making sure you kind of dig a little into it, Jennifer, not the way you drive. I do not drive that fast. You just drive that slow. Little twist and enjoyed it. Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Dolores, wishing you better health. Enjoy the show. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Still a fun show. Still a good time to come on and talk to everybody. It's still an interesting topic. Again, homework, you guys. See if you can find a missing village like Roanoke. Not just a ghost town where the economy and they left it and this kind of stuff, but actually one where the people disappeared without a trace, just like Roanoke, because I couldn't find one. If you guys find one and shoot it to me, I will dig into it. Or, better yet, you dig into it and I'll have you on as a guest, and then we can tear it apart there. I love having guests on. Can you make a show on the crystal skulls? Oh, man. I can. I researched into that years and years ago. I can kind of dig to see what we can find out now about the crystal skulls. Interesting topic. It didn't really lead anywhere for me in my research. It's one of those, that's kind of cool. Kind of open-ended, but we can definitely look that up. Let me make a note of that one too. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out. I will see you next week again, Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to come and join us at the YouTube channel. Join the chat. Join the discussion. We always have such a great time. T-Bone Roanoke. Yeah, if you didn't catch it, that was last episode, was the Roanoke. You guys have a great night, as Grizzly would say, coast to coast and around the world. You guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you all later. We're going to leave with, I like this outtake one. These guys are hilarious. Stay tuned to listen to the end of it where you get the bloopers. We'll see you next week, guys.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk? Action. No, get out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just gonna sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!